Hello MotoGP enthusiasts.
Condition of Miami.
Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Marc Márquez touched down at Brno riding the momentum of a perfect Balaton weekend, but the Ducati rider and his team know the Czech circuit presents a different challenge. The Automotodrom's elevation changes, heavy braking zones and technical final sector demand physical strength and precision, so Marquez and Ducati will approach the weekend methodically to convert recent form into consistent results. Pramac Yamaha rider Toprak Razgatlioglu arrives at Brno buoyed by his best MotoGP finish to date, and a clear sense that his adaptation to the Yamaha is moving in the right direction. With Brno presenting a fresh challenge, his first MotoGP race there, Razgatlioglu and Pramac view the Czech round as a key learning opportunity to convert recent gains into consistent top 10 form. In a wide-ranging Gypsy Tales podcast interview, Jorge Martin opened up about the injuries that nearly ended his career, the mental work that helped him win a title, and why he considered leaving Aprilia. He didn't want to return before he was fully himself and be forced to prove he was unchanged. Martin's account mixes raw honesty about fear and recovery with gratitude for the perspective the experience gave him. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Brno is a 5.4 km circuit with a mix of fast sections, elevation changes and a testing uphill final sector that punishes mistakes and rewards precise braking and mid-corner stability. The track's flowing rhythm and physical profile mean setup choices and rider fitness play an outsized role compared with flatter, less technical layouts. Circuits with significant elevation and long braking sequences expose weaknesses in chassis balance and tire management more quickly than low-demand tracks. Coming off pole, a sprint win and a Sunday victory at Balaton, Marquez arrives in the Czech Republic buoyed by confidence. He acknowledged that Balaton's characteristics suited the Ducati and that Brno will require a different approach, promising a step-by-step weekend to extract maximum performance. The feeling in Hungary was incredible. Here in Brno, the situation will be different. We'll approach the weekend step by step, to give 100% every day. Momentum is valuable, but translating one-track dominance into a broader run of form depends on adaptability across circuits. Pecco Bagnaia arrives with 3 consecutive podiums and aims to use Brno to consolidate his championship charge. Ducati's recent run underlines the package's competitiveness, but the team knows that consistency across varied circuits will determine the title fight. We arrive in Brno in a positive moment. I'm convinced I can make the most of the progress made with the ZNGP GP. When both factory riders are scoring regularly, the constructor and team standings benefit, but the championship still rewards reliability over isolated peaks. Engineers will prioritize braking stability, mid-corner grip and tire life to cope with Brno's demands. With the track's long runs and elevation changes, teams will test different chassis settings and brake feel to find a balance that preserves front grip without sacrificing exit traction. Small setup gains at Brno can yield significant lap time improvements because the circuit amplifies handling imbalances. Brno has been a favorable venue for Ducati in past years, and Marquez's 2025 victory there adds to the narrative that the ZNGP can adapt well to the circuit. Still, the paddock expects close battles among Marquez, Marco Bezzecchi, Jorge Martin and Bagnaia, with track characteristics likely to shuffle the order compared with Balaton. Historical success is a useful reference, but each season's bike evolution and tire behavior can change the competitive picture markedly. Marc Márquez arrives in Brno with clear momentum, but both rider and team recognize the circuit's tougher physical and technical tests. If Ducati can translate Balaton's confidence into a setup that handles Brno's braking and elevation profile, Marquez and Bagnaia should be in contention. The weekend will reveal whether recent dominance was track-specific or the start of a sustained run across the more demanding venues on the calendar. Razgatlioglu highlighted steady improvement over recent rounds, saying he feels more comfortable, with the bike than earlier in the season. That growing familiarity underpins his confidence heading into a circuit he last raced in World SBK in 2018 but has not yet experienced on a MotoGP machine. The positive thing is that we have made good progress in the last few races and I feel more comfortable with the bike than I did earlier in the season. Incremental gains in chassis feel and electronics understanding often translate into more consistent lap times and reduced setup guesswork across a weekend. For Razgatlioglu, Brno will feel almost like a new circuit because he has not raced it on a MotoGP bike. He expects the elevation changes and fast corners to teach him fresh lessons about corner speed and bike behavior at the premier class level. Brno will be another important learning weekend for me. It will feel almost like a new track. Riders returning to circuits after long absences must prioritize free practice to rebuild track memory and adapt braking points and lines to the heavier, more powerful MotoGP machines. Razgatlioglu set a pragmatic target: improve session by session and arrive at Sundays stronger than on Friday. The emphasis on steady progression reflects a rookie-focused development plan rather than chasing a single standout result. The target is to improve session by session, learn as much as possible and arrive on Sunday stronger than we are on Friday. A measured approach reduces risk and accelerates learning. Consistent small improvements are often more valuable than sporadic flashes of pace. Pramac team boss Gino Borsa praised Brno's layout and underlined the technical challenges it poses. He said recent chassis and electronics work has narrowed the gap to the top 10 group and that engine performance will remain important on Brno's long acceleration zones. The team sees the weekend as a benchmark for how far the package has come since the start of the year. Thanks to the progress we have made with the chassis and electronics, we arrive in a much better position than we were at the beginning of the season. Brno's mix of fast sections and elevation changes exposes both engine tractability and mid-corner stability, making it a useful test of holistic bike development. The recent trend of closing the gap to the points group matters more to Pramac than any single finish. Razgatlioglu's steady trajectory suggests the team's development direction is working and that further gains are likely if the rider continues to adapt his style and extract more from the Yamaha. For rookies, a season defined by progressive improvement and growing confidence often yields stronger results in the second half of the year. Brno represents both a technical test and a learning milestone for Toprak Razgatlioglu. If he and Pramac can translate recent chassis and electronics gains into confident laps on a near-new MotoGP circuit, the weekend should reinforce the positive trend and bring the rider closer to regular points finishes. The session-by-session plan gives Razgatlioglu the best chance to turn progress into performance as the season unfolds. Martin reflected on his rise with Pramac, the team's first wins in their satellite team world title, and identified a shift in mentality as the decisive factor in his championship year. Working with mental performance specialists produced rapid gains, helping him manage highs and lows and extract consistent results across a season. When I started training my mindset, in just 2 weeks I felt different. For Martin, psychological preparation became as important as physical training in converting pace into a title. A supermoto training crash in Lida caused a severe scaphoid fracture and other injuries that proved harder to recover from than initial knocks. Martin described the scaphoid as a career-defining injury, one that can permanently affect riders, and recounted undergoing a second operation before returning to track work. The scaphoid was the key to everything. It's a terrible injury. Wrist injuries are notoriously slow to heal and can sap confidence and grip strength long after bone union. Martin gave a harrowing account of the Qatar GP incident after his return, when a collision left him with 11 broken ribs and a pneumothorax. He described the terror of not being able to breathe, calling his girlfriend to say goodbye before doctors stabilized him and inserted a chest tube. The episode reshaped his outlook on life and racing. I was absolutely convinced I was dying. I called Maria to say goodbye. Surviving such a traumatic medical emergency often triggers profound reassessment of priorities and risk. During recovery, Martin faced pressure and offers that forced a difficult choice. He explained he wanted time to heal fully rather than rush back and be forced to prove he was the same Martin as before. That stance clashed with Aprilia, who resisted his departure, sparking a public dispute. Martin insisted his priority was long-term recovery, not a quick return under external pressure. "I didn't want to come back and have to prove that I was still the same as before." Contractual and commercial pressures can complicate medical comebacks. Riders often must balance career momentum against lasting health. Martin admitted the months after the crash were mentally brutal, sleepless nights and social media criticism cut deep, but he also described a transformation. Surviving the ordeal made him appreciate small pleasures and reframe health as a gift. He now credits the experience with making him a better person and a more complete rider. "Sometimes in the morning I just have a coffee and think, wow, health is a gift." Near-death experiences frequently produce lasting shifts in perspective that influence athletes' priorities and approach to competition. Jorge Martin's interview is a candid portrait of recovery, resilience, and the hard choices elite athletes face when injury collides with career opportunity. His insistence on returning only when fully ready, and the mental work that underpinned his title run, underline a broader lesson: physical talent must be matched by psychological strength and careful management of risk. As Martin continues his comeback and season, that balance will remain central to both his performance and his well-being. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!